Back again with another video, Bad News Brown. And if you're new to my channel, I speak on a variety of things, a lot of topics from my personal experience, just my opinion. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now, in today's episode of Financial Literacy, we're going to be talking about investing. Now, one of the primary reasons you need to invest is simply due to inflation. Now, I spoke on this before, and inflation is basically rising prices. So, even if you put your money in a safe or in a mattress, inflation is eating away at your money and is diminishing the buying power. So, essentially, your money is getting old, not in the right way. So, that's one of the top reasons you need to invest, other than supporting yourself and your family. Now, the first thing you need to understand when investing is you need to think short term, mid term, and long term investing. Now, short term, of course, is primarily for short term investing where you want a quicker return. And then you got mid term, which is like maybe 5 to 7 years. And then you got long term, of course, is to when you old and gray, and even possibly investments that you're going to pass down to your offspring. So keep that in mind whenever you're thinking investing, because as you're going to learn, you're going to develop different investment styles. You're going to start utilizing different investment vehicles as I'll speak on, and you'll start putting together your own formula as I'll put it. So the different type of investments that generally most people invest in will be stocks, bonds, whether a 401k through your job, or what is called an IRA, individual retirement account. So first, let's talk about stocks. Now, when it comes to stocks, now before I continue, the name of the game is to hedge above inflation, meaning you want your income to oversee your expenses obviously. So with that in mind, this is why people invest. Basically, they want to hedge above inflation. So whatever you invested in, you want it to obviously yield more than the rate of inflation and some. So let me continue. Now, when it comes to stocks, you're going to have what is called like high risk stocks, low risk, mid risk, or low risk stocks. Now, high risk stocks generally is stocks that usually startup companies, and stocks, of course, that yield a high return, but it also you can lose money faster as well. So it's and it's pros and cons to everything, as you'll see. But for the most part, that's high risk stocks. Mid risk obviously is stocks is going to have what is called, they give you some capital gains and put up some risk but minimal risk, and that's usually, of course, for your, I would think, mid-term portfolio, and I'll get into what a portfolio is in a minute. But when you think mid-term, think precisely what it is, mid. Now, of course, you're going to have low risk stocks. These stocks going to they're going to they're going to yield little money, but you're going to lose little money. These are what is called like safe stocks, and I'll get into that. Now, safer stocks, as I put it, well, low risk stocks like blue chip stocks. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. So, but I'm generally speaking. So, blue chip stocks you can consider low risk due to the simple fact. First, let me describe. Blue chip stock is basically a company that's a major company, a major U.S. company like Nike, McDonald's, Apple, Microsoft, Pepsi, Coca-Cola. All these, everybody know all across the world, everybody know these companies. These are considered blue chip stocks. Now, these stocks, there's pros and cons to both. Remember, now the things with these stocks, you guys, is that although the good part is basically you won't lose money. You won't be rich one day and wake up the next day broke. Although you won't wake up the next day rich either, it's a gradual rise, which is good. But in these companies again that you want, as I'll speak on a little later, is that you want to, I don't want to say safe stocks, but when you build your investment, I like to consider stocks as these as like your foundational stocks. That way, when your portfolio, depending on how the market goes, I'll get into, again, like I said, you won't wake up the next day broke. So blue chip stocks again, they won't yield a bunch of money, a bunch of income, a bunch of short-term capital gains, but there is a gradual growth. And again, you won't lose, you won't take a real brunt hit, especially when the market goes down as a whole, as I'll get into. You pretty much investing in the flow of the market or that particular industry because you got different type of index stocks and index funds or what have you. Now, another how should I put it, phrase you may hear or another strategy, because again, how you invest is going to depend on your age and your income level as well as your overall goal. And as I mentioned, the word portfolio, now think of portfolio as a collection of stocks that you hold, a group, kind of like an IRA, which is an individual retirement account. Now, the thing about the portfolio is you can actually have other portfolios in your portfolio and throw all that into an IRA, individual retirement account, if you get my drift. But again, depending on what your overall aim is, will pretty much dictate your portfolio style, as I'll put it. But again, another thing I want to say, I'm speaking generally now. So, for instance, there's rules of thumb when it comes to investment, as I mentioned before and keep mentioning. There's going to be different strategies and there's going to be different tactics, as I'll put it. But certain rules of thumb apply. So just like in any type of portfolio, I would recommend you have blue chip stocks. I would recommend you have some bonds, some international, as well as the new kid on the block, some crypto. And I'll speak on it a little bit later. But this is my opinion. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. But just follow with me. So now, one rule of thumb that I recommend is, again, you want to have your portfolio with a mix. Now, depending on your age, I would recommend the amount of bonds you want to have in your portfolio. Now, bonds essentially is loans that you give into either the government, you got government bonds, or a company, a corporation of sorts. And you got municipal bonds and whatever, but it's pretty much a loan because you buy the bond. Essentially, what you're doing is giving the government a loan for, of course, amount of interest. Now, that interest is going to probably dictate, well, the amount of interest of the bond doesn't dictate the prime interest rate, but depending on what the rate is when you purchase the bond and what it goes to when the bond matures will depend on if you win or lose. And there are strategies concerning bonds and certificate of deposits as well, which is essentially the same. It acts in the same manner as a bond. So now, bonds, again, like I was saying, when building your portfolio, a general rule of thumb would be, depending on your age, would dictate the amount, the percentage of bonds you want in that portfolio. So if you're 40 years old, you want 40% in bonds. If you're 20 years old, you want 20%. And of course, the older you get, the more you're going to put in bonds. Due to bonds is a more secure, safe investment. It's low risk, but as well as low reward. You're not going to get rich off bonds. But if you want to put your money like in a temporary safe house and inflation doesn't eat away at your money, this is usually what smart money do. Instead of putting their money under the couch or in the safe, they'll buy a certificate of deposit or a bond and park their money there, so to speak. Even a money market account, which is something I'll get into probably in a later video. But these are just different vehicles that you can use to park your money so it can hedge against inflation. So now again, like I said, depending on your age, gonna dictate the percentage amount you want to put into your portfolio concerning bonds. And again, depending on your age, going to depend on when it comes to stocks. So you got bonds is a more easier rule of thumb, but with stocks, you want to mix it up. You want to have some blue chip stocks. You want to have some mid risk stocks as well as long term stocks. Now, usually blue chip stocks can is more considered to go in your long-term investment strategy, as well as you can put it. It's good to have it in any portfolio. Again, you can have multiple portfolios, and depending on your income or your overall goal, may going to dictate your strategy. Like you may can have one portfolio with nothing but blue chip, and one portfolio with nothing but high risk. But it all depends if that's even practical for you to do. Again, with your strategy, your income amount, age, etc. So again, when concerning stocks, you want to have blue chip in your portfolio, and you want to have some high risk, high reward, and that brings to crypto. Crypto is the new guy, the new kid on the block now. Crypto, I would deem as a high risk investment, but it's high reward. So now, depending on your age, like you don't want to put this is why you want to mix up your portfolio. And I don't care what the amount is, even if it's just $1,000. If you got your $1,000 all in crypto or all in high risk stocks, you can literally wake up the next morning and that $1,000 is $75 or even zero, depending on how you play it. Like it's really, if you want to throw away your money, you can. There's nothing stopping you. But all BS aside, you want to mix up your portfolio. And the younger you are, the more risk you probably want to play with because you got time to recover. And that's the thing, time can work for or against you. And brings up another thing about the whole how good it is and how the best time it is to start investment. It is, other than the obvious reason of survival, because hey, whether you like it or not, this world runs off money. So again, I remember back in the day where they didn't have these apps like we got now, and I get into that probably in the description. I'll leave some apps I recommend that you download and use and that I use myself. But back in the day, they had, which still exists, they had what is called discount brokerage firms. Now, discount brokerage firms is your Charles Schwab's, Fidelity's, TD Waterhouse. Now, you may have heard of these companies, Merrill Lynch's, stuff like that. These are like brokerage firms. And back in the day, you had to go through them to, to deal on the stock market to buy or trade stock. And don't get me wrong, these companies still exist, and I recommend you do dabble in these companies. And the good thing with technology now, as I was getting to, the instantaneous of making moves, moving money, buying and selling stock, you really got your pulse on it now, as opposed to back then you really had to watch the newspaper or look at the TV or be tapped in with a broker, and it would only be practical for you to even be dealing directly with a broker. That's why they had the discount brokerage firms, as I mentioned, is unless you was dealing with a lot of assets, a lot of money, as I put it, for it to even make sense to even go directly with a broker. So now, but now you can, it's instant. So that's, hey, I recommend anybody if you haven't, and this is for the layman, the person who's been hearing about this stuff all their life and ain't really gave it much thought. I never figured they really had to. But again, the world is changing real fast, and even if it ever was a time that it was always good to stash your money in a safe or in a mattress or whatnot, the inflation and the rising prices is constantly eating away at your money. So it's forcing you to put your money to work. And that's essentially what money is, currency. But I ain't about to go down a rabbit hole in this video. This is just a general financial one-on-one investing video. Again, this is not financial advice. I ain't no financial advisor. This is strictly my opinion, and I don't care, and I'm not wealthy yet either. But again, these are the basic principles one on one, and I'll continue to make more videos. Go ahead and subscribe to me. Tell me what you think. If you got a question or if it's something I left out or whatever, man, go ahead and get your opinion. I'll talk back. Talk to me. Peace.